Are there truckers in Manhattan? Well, maybe a few, but not yet. We've heard from a group that's made the public known that they have plans to publicly occupy the city streets of Manhattan. So, what about these plans? What will it do, and what are your thoughts on truckers protesting? That's what we're going to talk about today. Personally, I don't know that it's really going to do much. We're going to go over some occasions in history where this very thing has been done. Canadian protests that we all remember got a lot of media attention, but was it the right kind of media attention? Was this received the way we thought? Also, over 72 million gallons of diesel were wasted due to idling during detention, costing the industry 286.1 million. We're going to talk about that too. Today we're going to cover a lot, but we're not covering as many stories as I usually do. We're talking about this group, a group known as the Truckers Movement for Justice. We're going to ask ourselves, what are we fighting for? Can anyone honestly answer that question? Me personally, I've got an answer for everything. Heidi ho and greetings, diesel lovers, truth seekers, and visionaries all across the world. Boss Man here, coming to you live from the Truckin' City Mobile Studios. God, I'm tongue-tied starting off. Today we got something that's about to slam into the heart of New York City like a fully loaded rig tearing down I-95. But worry not, because we're diving straight into a showdown like you've never seen before. We're actually going to make sense of it. Protests, semi-trucks, Wall Street. Yeah, we've been there before, haven't we? That's right. It's all going down in Lower Manhattan coming up soon. So I want to bring you aware to that and talk about one other thing. One of the reasons they're fighting is due to Wall Street. They say it's due to Wall Street. I say it's due to rates and detention. But that's only part of it. I've got a story highlighted in Transport Topics that pretty much says, yeah, it's time to make some adjustments and time to start thinking of things. But the question is, do we start making these adjustments and start thinking about it from an industry perspective? Or do we think about it from the perspective of what is it we're doing? A lot of us drivers sit and think, well, you know what? They've handed us a bad lot. You know, you can go from Florida to New York City on a good load. It's good mileage, but are you getting paid a good rate? Well, it depends. Who's the customer? What kind of freight are you hauling? Are you flatbedding? Are you running a reefer trailer? Are you just running a dry van? Have you been in this industry for 2 or 3 years? Have you been in it for 2 or 3 decades? You know, everybody you talk to has got a different perspective on the industry. They either look at it from a standpoint of, I like this. I'm getting treated well. I've got a good business. I make good money, and I'm confident that no matter what happens in my future, I've got this. Or they sit on the lot of they work for someone else. That someone else happens to have put them in a situation where no matter what you do, you can't get ahead. You're working for 50, 60, 70 cents a mile, and your lifestyle back at home, your budget and all the bills you pay to keep the truck running. Okay, you can get ahead, but you can't get nowhere. Put in the comments if you can relate to that statement. I've been living a life as a truck driver myself for 13 years. One of the things that I have noticed is I don't care who you are in the trucking industry, you're never happy. So I have to sit back and ask the question, well, why is it no one's ever happy? Is it because the industry is really that bad? Is it because we don't understand fully what it is we're doing? Is it because the media publicizes and keeps everybody on the shoestring of maybe tomorrow? Put in the comments what you think is the problem with the industry. Do you think it's the media? Do you think it's the major companies like the Warners, the JB Hunts? Do you think it's maybe just the conditions that other people that have nothing to do with trucking? Do you think they're responsible for it? Because honestly, in my opinion, I think it comes down to each and every individual. I think it's up to you. I've started today's broadcast out differently, and I know in the past I've gone directly into, who I am, what I do. But I honestly, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to cut through all the BS. I'm very passionate about this industry. Same time, I'm young, very young. I put out a vlog video yesterday on the reasons I quit Landstar. I don't know if y'all caught it or not, and if you didn't, go watch it. It's called. There's two of them. Something that happened to Landstar. It was one video highlighting the decision to quit, and the one I put down yesterday was even more revealing. In that, I revealed that I'm inexperienced. I will openly admit that here on this live broadcast. And I will tell you, I have a lot to learn. I may be a good broadcaster and I may be effective at catching your attention. But in terms of driving a truck, I've got it down. I've got it figured out. I am a professional. And the reason I say that is because I've had a 13-year track record of a safe driving record. But I'll tell you, my experience does not lend currently to being able to own a business. I will openly admit that. Maybe a business in broadcasting, maybe a business, paying attention to other truck drivers. But if I want to open my own trucking business and pay drivers, I have a lot to learn. I know this, and it's why I've started this broadcast. It's why I've started this channel. I want to network with people like you. I want to learn from people like you. But I also want to share experiences that I hope will help you. Normally, I start my broadcast off with an inspiration, but I hope to make myself that inspiration. I hope to communicate to you folks. There's more to the industry than the steering wheel. There's more to the industry than the road ahead of you. There's a lot out there in front of you. There's a lot out there to be discovered. And there is so much room for improvement. We're not going to get it done by blockades. We're not going to get it done by protests. We're not going to get it done being a public nuisance. There is a way to make improvements. You know how that is? You make improvements with yourself. You start with you and you work your way out. Get hold of a platform, get hold of a message, get hold of a mentality that it's not you alone. I think we'll go a lot further. I think we'll get a lot more accomplished, and I think we'll be far more respected in the long run if we take our issues to the front lines.
Shall we begin?
From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth in Broadcasting Network. Welcome to Trucking City News Frontline Podcast, hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Bossman.
That's right. It's me, Boss Man, live and in the flesh. We are covering issues like no one else. We are giving you a show like no one else. We are providing you with a platform where you can sound off on issues that matter to you. Help start a movement. Join us today. Become a subscriber, like this broadcast, and pay attention because it's about to get real. We give you news that no other platform will. A lot of people can read the news, a lot of people can run a show, but we show you how it's done. We bring the issues front and center to you, and we give you a phone line and a way to sound off. You want to get in touch with me, Boss Man? Go ahead, call 860-785-3547, 860-785-3547. Go ahead and send me your thoughts on this story through the email. Send me comments, send me links to news stories you think aren't covered right in the media. If you don't like the way it's covered, if you disagree with what's being said, you send me the link, you tell me what you like or don't like about it, and we can bring it here and talk about it. Making a difference in trucking. We can make trucking great again. I represent you, the truckers. I bring with me a panel that comprises over 100 years worth of grand experience on different areas. You got flatbedders, you got reefer drivers, you've got dry van drivers, you've got people that have experience in all walks of life. I welcome you in the audience to become part of a movement that will make trucking great again. It happens one road, one code, one load at a time. I'm Boss Man, a man myself of over 13 years experience in trucking, 3 decades in transportation. I have started something called the Truth in Broadcasting Network. This golden microphone every weekend will sit here and be open for you, talking about stories that affect you. Given a skill granted by God with the ability to read a story, creatively write an opinion, and deliver to you that which you need to hear. We're going to dive straight into what I think is issue number one. And that is this whole thing about detention. This whole thing about detention really is what started it all. A group of guys got together and he said, you know what, enough's enough, okay? You want to know what's really happening in our industry? Let's talk about detention time. In a story that I will have highlighted down below in Transport Topics, a plague in the world of trucking, it costs this nation millions. Staggering 11.5 billion in lost productivity in 2023 alone. There's no telling what it's done this year. On top of that, another 3.6 billion went straight out the window in direct costs, all because drivers are being held up at customer facilities for hours on end. I'm talking about 40% of the stops resulting in delays. And if you're hauling refrigerated goods, well, buckle up. 56% of your stops are going to make you sit and wait. Got a couple of people on our panel today that know full well all about that. On top of that, another 3.6 billion went straight out the window because drivers are being held up at. No, look at me. I'm reading stuff over and over again. We got women drivers out there. Pardon my. I'm looking at talking points, but I'm also losing my place here. That shows you how passionate I am, right? We've got women drivers out here facing even longer delays than our male counterparts, adding fuel to the fire. And here's the kicker. While fleets are charging detention fees, less than half of those fees are even getting down to the driver level. Drivers are sitting, trucks are idling, and millions of gallons of fuel are wasted as we burn time, diesel, and productivity. But don't think this issue ends here. It's leading to unsafe practices. There are studies that say that drivers that wait longer become more unsafe. They bust through these deadlines, they skirt the rules, they do unsafe things, cause accidents, all with the edge of trying to get ahead of the clock. So stick around because this topic, it doesn't stop at this show. We're going to talk about this and we're going to see exactly what the panel thinks. And I want you in the audience to tell me what you think the magic solution is to detention time. Because I'll tell you what, detention's one thing. When it comes down to it, we really have to think about exactly what is being done here. Detention's only part of it. You know what? There's another group out there that thinks that wages are a problem. And to be honest with you, yeah, wages are a problem. So if you lease a truck, if you drive a truck and you're under somebody else's thumb, what, what's the
The
solution?
concept of wage theft in the last 30 years has risen astronomically in our industry to the point where on any given day, Oscar and myself and hundreds of thousands of other truck drivers have their wages stolen. The idea and the concept of a working person working all week and not being paid or receiving their paycheck and thinking that, oh, this week, yeah, I'll make $350 or $3,500, whatever you like. And all of a sudden the paycheck comes up to be $150. And you question the employer or the carrier in our instance and say, why is my settlement short? Oh, this. What's this?
Hey everybody, I'm sorry. We're having technical difficulties. The boss man has lost his mic. He'll be back in just a moment. Just hang on. We'll be right back.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. You're hearing me, Grumpy?
I am, sir.
All right. Let me get back to it. All right. I'm sorry. Something happened with my computer and it just shut everything down. I'm sorry about that, guys. Let me get back to this. All right. I'm going to start the bulletin over again because I don't know if you guys were actually able to hear any of this. Why I got shut down, I don't know. My apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a protest being planned. It is obviously something I have mixed emotions about. But when you talk about detention and everything I just spoke of minutes ago, I get why they want to do it. All right. This group called Truckers Movement for Justice are planning on the 18th of this month a rally or get together against a very popular investment group known as BlackRock. They think that by going into the city of New York and shutting down the city itself, that they're going to actually make a difference and that they're going to make a change of some kind. I don't believe it's going to work. Well, let me tell you something. I get we're frustrated. I get that our livelihoods are on the line. And every time we turn around, someone's making decisions that affect us without so much as a glance. They look our way. They talk a good talk. They take in our comments. They take in our feedback. But then all of a sudden, without even a moment's notice, boom, they come back, yank the comments, ignore us, and move on. Well, this group, Truckers for Movement for Justice, they've said enough's enough. So they planned on the 18th to get together, and they're going to block up city streets in front of Wall Street, and they're going to camp out in front of BlackRock, and they're going to make their voices be heard. Well, let me tell you something. Protesting in the streets, blocking access to businesses, grinding the city to a halt, it's not a new thing. Truckers have tried it time over time, and we've been met with mixed results. Does anybody remember this? Does anybody remember the Canadian protest?
Are they just whole bunch of other people just joining without any real understanding of the issue?
I don't believe they changed anything other than they bullied the government into, getting rid of some of the masking. But other than that, I don't think it was effective at all. In fact, I think it was really ineffective.
Emergency.
Sorry, guys. Nothing's cooperating today. I'm trying to get everything to cooperate with me, and it's not
Declaring
working.
a state of emergency and is demanding the truckers go home now. Meanwhile, the media keeps hammering the truckers as dangerous insurrectionists.
Everything is on the table because this unlawful activity has to end, and it will end.
Some of the organizers of this protest, which, as I mentioned, started more than a week ago.
The police chief says COVID protests are a, quote, nationwide insurrection.
They do want to overthrow the government.
A nationwide insurrection driven by madness.
It's not just truckers. There's a lot of, I've heard there's QAnon supporters in the crowd.
Residents that I have spoken to who say they feel terrorized.
And White House officials are urging Canadian leaders to use their federal powers to break up the protests.
Now, I bring that basically to show you there's public perception and then there's media spin. We need to be smarter than what we've done in the past. What we've done in the past hasn't worked. Trucking isn't just about moving freight. It's about moving the needle of public perception. The public isn't watching the government. No, they're watching us. They're watching every move we as an industry make. Every protest, every rally, they're going to paint us as the bad guys. The government, they'll just sit back and watch us hang ourselves with our own rope. We need a new strategy. This industry's under attack, and it's definitely not being treated with kid gloves, but not in the way that you can fight by just parking a rig in the middle of the street. Okay? We need to engage people, really engage people, like we're doing right here. Not just on the roads, but in the halls of power. Okay? That means getting active with local governments, local media outfits, channels like you're watching now, people that see the industry the same way you do. That means getting active. That means getting loud. That means getting smart. This is where social media comes into play. My friends, you want to protest? Fine. Do it from the palm of your hand. Do it by flooding social media. Do it by getting on Twitter, on what's now called X, Facebook, Instagram. These platforms and what we're doing right now, they can give us the edge of giving us the attention without turning the country against us. And here's the kicker. If you don't vote, you're handing over your power to the government. Too many of us just sit back and think, oh, well, my vote don't count. I'm not telling you get involved in the presidential stuff. That's a little bit above my pay grade. But don't live in a town where they have a voting booth where you vote your chairmans, your governors, your transportation specialist, or any of those local positions that greatly affect you. You know, the same people that pass these laws that you can't park on city streets after dawn every third Tuesday of every second month of every day they write in a book. No. These people are the ones that are passing these laws that funnel their way up to be the FMCSA, the DOTs, the people, the policies, the laws. They're the ones we're talking about. These are the things that are what is getting us to the point where we want to go to New York and we want to sit on Washington, the Beltway. We want to sit in front of the Capitol. We want to look bad. We want to make everybody's life hell because then we are showing the, oh, woe is me thing. But then the media turns around and uses it against us years later. It's time to stop playing the victim. It's time to stop all this needless BS and start playing the long game. Guys, I'm talking directly to you. Get involved. Get on this channel. Get on others. Get on other channels. Get out. Get active. Get loud. And when you've got something to say it in the place it counts. Going to Manhattan, sitting on the Brooklyn Bridge, or whatever your brainiac idea is for a Stop Life Now movement or whatever, you know, it ain't going to work. It's going to make us look bad and it's going to hurt our future. Right here on this channel, we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep holding people accountable and we'll keep pushing for a better future for trucking. But we need you. We need you being sensible. We need you agreeing or disagreeing like you have the right to do on my show. And let's take back control. Let's treat trucking the right way. Let's stop clogging the streets. Let's stop making a nuisance of ourselves, the people that hire us. Let's start taking this seriously, guys. Let's make trucking great again by doing what's considered the right thing. Once again, I said I had a panel of over 100 years worth of experience. I'm not lying to you, my friends. I've dropped one out. I hope he comes back. Driving with John was on the panel. But as usual, I've gotten long-winded. This is how it works, folks. This is how I am going to run this show. I want you to seriously benefit from it. Most of all, I want everybody here to benefit from it. So let me ask you, Grumpy, what do you think about the idea of yet another chance at somebody clogging up the roads, making a statement. Do you really think it's going to make a difference?
No, honestly, it's not. Protesting does not really solve anything anymore, especially since social media networks are out here. Like you're saying, it's best to come on shows like ours or get yourself out there on your own lives and stuff and let people know how you feel, but do it in a sensible way, so that way people know what's going on and can comment back and give feedback. Because once that gets out there, then the big companies like CBS, NBC, all that's going to be like, oh, this is interesting. And then they're going to grab a hold of it. Now, that's to say that they may tear out what they want, which is usually what most news networks do, but that's how it's going to have to happen anymore, because standing in a picket line anymore, protesting, really doesn't solve anything.
No, and just for your benefit, only because I know everybody in the Canadian protest, they really thought they were doing something. But you know what? Just doing a simple search, one search, netted this result.
Declaring a state of emergency and is demanding the truckers go home now. Meanwhile, the media keeps hammering the truckers as dangerous insurrectionists.
Everything is on the table because this unlawful activity has to end, and it will end.
Some of the organizers of this protest, which, as I mentioned, started more than a week ago.
The police chief says COVID protests are a, quote, nationwide insurrection.
They do want to overthrow the government.
A nationwide insurrection driven by madness.
It's not just truckers. There's a lot of, I've heard there's QAnon supporters in the crowd.
Residents that I have spoken to who say they feel terrorized.
And White House officials are urging Canadian leaders to use their federal powers to break up the protests.
Think about this. Every time something like this is done, if the White House takes on this persona and this opinion, and if the Canadian government does what it eventually did to break it up, what happened to everybody as a result? Are we better? Have we solved our issue? Have we really done anything worthwhile? Poet, you mentioned in the comments a minute ago about Rebel News. What actually happened in that protest that none of us here know about?
Okay. The protest started, yes, on account of COVID. No problem. We were mandated to wear masks. Most of us really didn't care. But when the federal government said it's mandated that you take the shot, that's where people got PO'd. And especially
So
here
the
in
problem,
Western Canada.
so the problem was the shot. It wasn't just the rule. So it was it one or both?
Probably both. Okay. The masking rules, yeah, I could understand it, and because I don't want to catch COVID. But the mandate that I had or have to take an injection, that's an invasion of privacy on me.
Okay. Do you think the average truck driver felt that way? And do you think that's why they staged this protest the way they did a couple of years ago?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Looking back
Now,
to,
what did it
do you think looking back, do you think anything changed after all said and done?
To a point, it told the public that, hey, you don't have to take this. You don't have to take the government shoving a needle in your arm or wherever else.
Right.
You have some degree of self-autonomy. You have the right to make your own decisions. Now, the mask man, okay, that was all over. Didn't matter where you were.
Right.
You don't wear a mask. You don't get to eat in this restaurant. You don't get to go to the hospital. you don't get to go in the grocery store because they were all scared of catching it.
The only
Which is
thing
fine.
I'm really the only thing I'm trying to focus on, Paul, and I don't mean to cut you off. At the end of it all,
No.
once the protest ended, was there any change of mainly what they started griping about after the protest was all done? Was there any change, or was it just pretty much same old, same old?
It's the same old, especially after the government instituted
Yeah.
their Emergencies Act and
Okay.
arrested a whole bunch of people and put them on trial.
Now, one thing I noticed and I remember was that if you talk to different groups of truckers throughout the U.S., number one, most of them didn't cross the border and go into Canada. But if you asked them what they thought it was
Okay.
about, they always gave you a different answer. They always talked about it from a perspective of, well, it's about this, it's about that, it's because of this, it's because of that. And because of that, we dealt with the perception from the public standpoint that it wasn't effective enough, because at the end of the day, nobody really knew what the whole thing was all about. Everybody had a different opinion, and the perfect proof
That's right.
is right here.
Are they just whole bunch of other people just joining without any real understanding of the issue?
I don't believe they changed anything other than they bullied the government into, getting rid of some of the masking. But other than that, I don't think it was effective at all. In fact, I think it was really ineffective.
Think about that. At the end of the day, you have a news report that shows someone thinking that it did almost nothing, or to use their wording, wasn't effective. All right. This group I'm talking about plans to shut down indefinitely. They don't mention a time frame. They mention a start date, but they've so far said they're going to do this. And watching one video, which is linked in the description of this live show, by the way, I'm not playing the video and I'm not announcing much beyond the person's face on the opening script that I showed you about Billy. Because I'm not going to give any publicity to something I don't fully believe will be effective. But having said that, even the people, there's a group of 4 of them, I believe. 4 people that are headlining this Truckers Movement for Justice, and they're setting all this up. And all 4 of them have a different goal. They have a different reason for doing this. And I can tell you, first of all, unless you have an industry-wide statement about what change you want, you're wasting your time. You're wasting my time. You're wasting theirs. You're wasting resources of probably not only the city of New York, but you're wasting federal government resources that would otherwise, I think, be more effectively and efficiently dedicated to solving the problem you're trying to create, to solve the problem you're trying to mediate. You're creating an environment, in my opinion, that serves to work against you.
If
I have
the 4 guys that started this movement, all have different opinions, it's a
Right.
fragmented thing going. So
Right.
fragmented as a start, it's going to end
Right.
up fragmented.
Yes. I have in front of me the there's a post, okay? I'm not looking at the screen. I'm looking at a secondary. There's 2 people that I'm going to call out, Billy Randall and Oscar Lobos. Those are the 2 individuals that have gone public with their decision to do this. One of them was pictured in my audio clip early on. I implore you guys, if you want to make a difference, if you want to come on my show and talk about your issues, your grievances, I feel your pain, brother. I do, because you know what? I think there's a lot of room for improvement in this industry. But as I said in my open, and I said in my bulletin, which I hope you heard all of, because John had to come in and say I wasn't being heard or seen. I mean business when I say, yeah, the industry's not perfect, but there's a right way to do it, and then there's not. and I don't believe a protest is the right way to do it. Fate, if you were to have your choice of any way to solve a problem, what would be your first choice as a means to make people aware of that? What would you do?
Wow, that's
I'm putting you on the spot, but yeah, I mean, honestly, let me ask you the surface question. Do you agree with staging a protest to raise awareness of something like wages?
okay. Let me be clear about something.
You
Do I
always are, so
believe?
had to-
do I believe in like protesting? Absolutely. I
Mhm.
believe in peaceful protesting.
Right.
In my opinion of peaceful protesting, you're not interfering with the general public.
Right.
You might be a nuisance, like a picket line somewhere or something like that, but you're
Right.
really not impeding anything with the general public. They're hearing you, they're seeing you.
Right. Right.
I personally would never be involved in something that is going to cause somebody to look down on the point that I'm trying to get across. The easiest way for somebody to look down at a point that I'm trying to get across is interfere with them. Now, you might say you have to interfere with them for them to hear you. I get that
Right.
too, and I do understand that.
Right.
But no,
right.
I would not take part in something that blocked streets, that blocked buildings, that did anything like that, because basically, like, history recently has shown us, if you do that, you might get in trouble. You know what I mean?
Well,
Whether it's
my-
right or wrong.
Right. Well, my thing is, and this is where I decided to bring this into the show and make people aware of it. You know, similar to what you're saying, Faye, I think the media spins it in a way that goes against this. The public sees it in a way that doesn't help our cause. I mean, I don't know of a way of having a protest. Now, I know of a way of striking and protesting peacefully, as you worded. There's a difference, okay? If you believe things are so bad that it warrants a change such that, okay, you've got to make a stand, then striking is an effective means to do it. Okay, but that means you've got to pick a location that makes it visible, but at the same time, do what you were just talking about a minute ago, and it's doing it in a way that doesn't block access to needed services, businesses. You know, like for example, last year there was a lot of publicity about something called a slow roll. Now, in my mind, that slow roll was handled very professionally. It was done well because the slow roll was not blocking the entire interstate. Yeah, it was annoying if you were trying to get from, I believe it was Chicago to anywhere in Arkansas. You had to roll through Joplin on 44, and that's where they were holding it. And you had to scoot on by them very slowly because they were doing like 20 miles, maybe 15 miles an hour down the drive lane, leaving the passing lane open. And they had their signs, their flags, their noise, the whole 9 yards. That's effective. It doesn't completely block access. Emergency vehicles can get by. We can get by. Life goes on. We see them as we drive by. Everybody wins. But when you go down to Manhattan, the central hub of Wall Street, right in front of BlackRock, and you know how Manhattan is. If any of you have been down in Manhattan, you know there ain't but usually only 2 lanes you can drive in. You know, I don't know Wall Street because I've never driven past 42nd and 5th Avenue and all that. I've never been that far down. Much to my cousin's chagrin, she'd love to have me down there, but I've never gotten there. I've been down 2nd Avenue, I've been down 3rd, I've been down up and down Roosevelt Parkway there, in and out of Manhattan. you can't do any manipulation or movement without really wondering if you're going to get hit. You know, and then you put a huge amount of truckers in there blocking up, what is it, Fifth Avenue that meets up with Wall Street, I guess? I don't know. I'm not geographically familiar, but you do that and you're actually gridlocking the city. I don't believe anything will be accomplished. I think a loud noise will be made. I think you'll piss off a lot of officials. You'll get mad a lot of Port Authority police officers. But at the end of the day, I don't think the message is going to be effectively delivered, because as it stands, I don't think they all know what their message is. You've got one of them that represent the ILA or speak for the ILA. Now, for those of you that don't know, the ILA is the International Longshoremen's Association. They're the people that actually bring in, take down, and manipulate all the containers off the ports, you know, in both LA, Long Beach, the New York Port Authority, you know, all up and down the coast. If a container moves off a boat, the ILA's got their hands on it. It's the union.
Yep.
Okay. You have another outfit that's part of this protest. They're part of the railroad union, the FRA. They're part of the outfit that runs and regulates railroad car traffic. Who goes where, what goes where, you know. I don't think it's the FRA. It's another outfit, but they're part of the railroad union. Part of the Teamsters, I believe. So they're speaking on their behalf. Then you got this fella, Billy. He's independent. He's not represented by any union. He's a hot shotter turned trucker, and he's got an attitude. He's been in the news. He's been all over the place. He's really loud. He's very vocal. He's very public. I'll give him credit. He's definitely not one to hold back. He speaks his mind. But everybody's got their in. Everybody's got their. If everyone involved had one message, I think it would probably be a lot more effective, but it's not. This thing they're starting, and I fear what's going to come of it is going to turn into another Canadian protest.
Yeah.
I think it's headed for disaster. That's my opinion. Put down in the comments, guys. Let me know if you feel otherwise. If you disagree with me, I want to hear. Donna's in the house. Hi, welcome everybody. Gotta be safe. Have a good day. Thank you for joining us. We don't have many comments, but I'll tell you what, I hope the replay gets a lot of attention, because I'll tell you what, I put my opinions out on my video yesterday, and I really don't think protesting is the way to do it. I think this is the right way. I think we need to focus on sending the right message, and you know, hey, it is what it is. What you got, Fate?
I think anytime we go down this road, we need to have a clear, precise vision of what you want to accomplish. There's 6 people in this live right now.
Right.
I promise you, we don't agree on, we all have different things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that we would like to see change to make what we do better, easier, more profitable, right?
Yes.
I think putting together a movement requires kind of everybody to be on the same plane with having the same agenda. When you're talking about 3-4 different people all having different opinion, like having their own agenda, fighting for a certain union or a certain thing, man, that's your protest gets lost. Your
message
the
gets
reason, lost. Yeah, like
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. My personal phone just rang, and it was my boss. Justin, I'm going to tell you something. If you want to be part of the show, dial the studio line number. I have my reasons for this, my friend, if that's why you're calling. If not, I'll get back to you as soon as I'm off the air. But that being said, I mean, that's the problem. We get lost in the messaging by the way things are done, and that happens more than you think. 860-785-3547. If you want to be part of this show, give that studio line number a call. I'll put you on, let you have your say. This show is here for you guys, and this is why I do it.
Good,
you know,
good,
did you want to continue your thought, Fate? I mean, I agree with that fully. I do agree. We so often get caught up in, you know, all of the side issues that really the core message gets lost. It really does.
Can I ask a dumb question?
So
By all means, there's no
Go
such
ahead,
thing as a
Poet.
dumb question. Fate, you go ahead first.
Okay. Is like I kind of view trucking as like an independent thing. Even if you're working for somebody,
Right.
like why don't people focus more on like individuality, like getting what they need, getting what they want, instead of saying bold statements about justice for truckers or whatever you said the thing was. Like
Truckers movement for justice.
yeah, like I'm pretty damn happy in my career. Like I don't feel like I need somebody to fight for me for any type of justice. Now, I understand that there's people out there being taken advantage of and stuff like that, but like that's an individual. That's not the industry as a whole, in my opinion.
Now let me ask you a question. Fate, you specifically. Did you hear all my bulletin, or did I get cut off and shut down before that ended?
I didn't hear anything you said.
Okay. On the bulletin, I made a point of saying, you know, because I was talking about detention. Do you remember that part? Did you hear the whole story I ran about detention? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, it's pretty much individual, and in that part, I made the point of saying, hey, look, if you're of that caliber that you sign on with a company and you decide to haul freight for whatever rate, you know, 60 cents a mile, 70 cents a mile, whatever your rate is, you go in knowing exactly what you're getting. You know, most companies, when you hire on, they have a policy, and I've spoke privately with off the air with other drivers about this. You know, if your policy is 2 hours free or 1 hour free, some require 4. Larry, I understand you work for a company that requires 4 hours of detention before you're paid. Am I right? You don't. Your audio, by the way, I don't think your headset's acceptable. I mean, I don't agree with that. I mean, because I think that's 4 hours worth of possible money. I mean, you can gauge it any way you want. But you agreed, so you have to abide by their policies. Now, if you want to get paid differently and work for less, your only option is to leave and go work for a company that pays differently. You got no choice. But there it comes back to what you were saying a minute ago, Faye. It comes back to choice. You know, there are literally thousands of carriers out there. There's nothing saying that you have to work for that specific carrier. There's nothing saying that you have to tolerate that work condition which they put in front of you. And if you can't find a carrier that makes you happy, guess what? Buck up, pull up your pants, buy a truck, enlist it, get your own number, and start your own trucking company. That's really all you got. But you know what you do when you start. You know what you sign when you sign on the dotted line. Why take it to the public, block up streets, thinking all of a sudden that's going to change? You knew what you were doing. Do you agree with that, Fade, or do you think I pretty much hit that on the head?
Well, yeah, I do agree with it. Like, I agree with adults signing contracts, and then you sign the contract. Like, it's on you. I don't think it's fair that Larry has to sit 4 hours before he gets paid. Let me be clear on that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
No, I agree with that 100%.
And I'm not blaming Larry for that position, but what I am saying is, do I think there should be like a standard deal across the board, whether you're working with a broker, customer, whatever? Yeah, there should be a standard. There most certainly should be. But you know what? If a standard was in place, one of us on this panel is going to disagree with that standard. It's not going to be good enough for us. You understand what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, see, and that's why this industry is as diverse as it is. I mean, when you think about it, you've got cattle haulers, you've got people in construction, flatbedders, you've got well, here's another example I've had for a while now, and sorry to ignore you, Thumper and Bo in the audience. They're part of the panel. Thumper, if you're able to and would like to speak on this, you do the grain haulers. You know, I mean, do you not necessarily agree with everything in that part of the industry? Are there things you'd want to change? And if so, what would you do? Would you protest, or would you go about it a different way?
Well, I got a few things to say on that. Would I protest? No, because I mean, I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. There's a right way to protest, the peaceful way. But you know what?
Right.
I don't have the time or the day to do it.
Most of us don't. You're right.
I need to make money to support my family.
Exactly.
So I have no interest in protests. And Faith up there remembers a few years ago in Minneapolis, we had a protest and they blocked the road. Well, I had to drive through that, and there was a truck driver who he was actually they were trying to break into his truck, and this was on I-35, I think it was.
Right.
And he took off and killed a person. And granted, he got out of that charge, but I couldn't live with that. You know, me personally, I couldn't live with that. Now, in the grain and cattle part of the detention stuff, I would love to get paid detention.
Right.
We don't get detention. There's places that I go to, not really to throw a business under the bus, but as a grain hauler, everybody knows this place, North Dakota State Mill, hauling wheat mids. I sat there. The longest I've ever sat there was 38 hours waiting to get loaded. And I did not see a penny of detention out of that.
Wow.
It's the same up
There's
ridiculous.
there's two places that I know in the United States as a grain hauler that does give you detention pay, but you have to write down the time, the exact time you get there, almost to the exact second, and the exact time you scale out, and they have to sign for it before you get that detention. Now, cattle, I would love to get detention on that because I'm on my way to Sweetwater, Nebraska right now with a load of cattle on.
Right.
And I apologize for my absence on Wednesday, but I had a lot of personal
No,
stuff
don't
going on.
apologize, man. You got to work for a living, brother. You come at your leisure. I don't expect nothing from you guys.
Well, it wasn't work. I'll explain later on that. But I'm on my way down to Sweetwater, Nebraska right now. I picked this load up last night, hence why I was a little late this morning. I had to get a couple hours of sleep. I go unload this load, and I'm going to sit in Sweetwater till Monday night because there's nothing coming back to North Dakota. Because it's a weekend. It's a weekend.
Right.
So
well, nothing ever changes on weekends, mostly.
No.
So I totally get that.
And in the cattle industry, sometimes you get those weekend loads where you can bounce back and forth, and other times there isn't. But with our cattle haulers, especially my guys, they will pick up at the sale barn. They will drive to the plant. I'm just going to refer it as the plant.
Right.
They drop off, and generally they'll drive to Fargo or Jamestown, North Dakota, and they will sit there and wait until their next load, which is generally by 6 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock at night the next day.
Right.
Should there be a detention? Yes, but at the same time, no, because they're also doing their 10-hour reset. So,
Do you think there should be you know, and there again, midlife's probably going to pick on me for making this statement or asking this question. Do you guys think there should be like a national standard on detention? Rather than being so diverse and rather than being so crazy, this company does this, or this company does that, where I get paid for one thing, Larry gets paid for something completely unreasonable. Picking on you, buddy. Should there be a national standard? I mean, do you think there should be at least a minimum, not a regulation? Shut up, midlife. Don't even go there. But at least let's talk about a standard that at least gives us a little something more than what we currently have, which could be anything.
Absolutely. Our time is money too.
Yep.
I think there should be a minimum. I mean, but as Faith pointed out, it's not going to be good enough for everybody. You're going to have that one person. But to me,
especially when the government's involved.
Yeah, to me personally, something is better than nothing.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna say something, Fate? I'm watching your face. You're thinking something through.
Well, I'm just thinking of, like, if you're at a shipper, at a receiver, or at a sale barn getting cattle,
Right.
like there's way more work in cattle hauling than people realize. I mean, I don't know if you do this, Thumper, but like you're loading your own trailer. You know what I mean? So you're going to the pens. You're going to the pens and getting the cattle out of the pens into the trailer, setting up the spacers in the trailer, getting more.
A lot of work.
That's work. You know what I mean? Do I think there?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Do I think there should be a minimum pay for you agreeing to take a load somewhere that you obviously with experience know you have to wait till Monday to get a load leaving? No, like you chose to go down there. Just like if I was to choose to go to CNS, like but I also agree with Thumper on like our time is valuable, and it's the one thing that all truck drivers lose is time.
Really grumpy. I caught that.
You know, I agree with you, Faith, on that, but like kind of what I was getting forward to with the cattle part is like when I go to the plant, we have to call ahead, give them our information where we picked up, just like any other truck driver. And but the issue we're running to at the plant is there's times where we've sat for 6, 7, 8 hours waiting to unload.
You deserve to be paid for that in my mind. Like that's no different than me going to, like, that's what I'm saying. I think we deserve to be paid for that. I think the customers, the buyers, I don't want to say the wrong thing in cattle hauling because I'm not a cattle hauler, but like, you know, whoever you're working with, like that's they're asking for you to move something to bring live animals or good and service, food and services or whatever I'm trying to say somewhere.
Yeah.
And if they cannot accommodate the shipments that are coming in, they should be held responsible for that. Because they're the ones that control it.
Right.
They're the ones that set up the appointments.
But yet
on that I fully agree.
If you're 2 minutes close to your deadline, they're calling you ripping a new one because you're not there yet.
Yep. Or you're paying a fine, which I've
Oh
had.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can tell you that having worked for Landstar, and I don't anymore. Publicly, I've already disclosed where I'm at, so everybody knows. But the whole time I was there at Landstar, I did a lot of deliveries to the CNS. So to that, I can definitely relate to what you're saying, Faye. That whole thing with a lot of those places, the 2 hours, and then afterwards documenting your detention time, that to me sounds pretty standard. I know of a lot of other ones other than CNS. There are a lot of other retailers or grocers that have pretty much that standard because it usually takes about 1 to 2 hours to get offloaded. And usually the ones that are lengthier times are the ones where they have to do individual piece counts or use lumpers. You know, yeah, I get that the company's paying for the lumpers. That by itself is expensive. So they're not paying you detention as their way of saving them money. But what are you trying to slap me in the face and say I'm not worth it? I'm worth it to drive the load there, but I'm not worth it to sit there and wait. Now, on the other side of that argument is, well, by taking that load, because Landstar offered thousands of loads, anywhere from 30 to 40,000 loads on their board a day. So, you could choose to do something else. If going in, there's going to be detention, there's nothing forcing you to take that load. There's nothing forcing you to accept those terms of detention. So in that case, I agree with you, Fate. We have that choice. We know going in what's going on. But there are those people that work for a company that's just their policy across the board. Do I like it? No. Those people like it? Probably not. But that's where I came from asking the minimum standard question, because, there are some of us that don't have a choice. You made the choice point earlier. Yeah, there are some of us that don't have that choice. Most of us do. Even me right now, I do have a choice. I'm not forced to do any one specific route. I can choose to say no. Not many of us out here, on this panel have that choice. But you trying to make a statement, Grumpy?
I'm just showing them I'm proud to look like my YouTube idol. Come on now.
Okay. Statement heard. I don't know if the challenge is accepted or not. I'm the only one that knows how to wear a cowboy hat. With you, it looks like a freaking prop.
Thanks.
Just saying. Hashtag, just saying. We needed that.
That's right. If Faye was cracking up.
Oh, I know. I saw you pop on and off real quick. I thought maybe you were playing with me. TJ Bull of the Woods. Trucking is the only industry that seems to work for free. Sitting at shippers and receivers is BS. Company drivers should be paid hourly and CPM, paid for all their time. Well, I'm glad to hear you feel that way. Bull of the Woods, if you're still in there, what do you think about protests? Do you think they're effective? Or do you agree, like me, that we need a different strategy? KJ, nice to see real folks these days. Good work, truckers. Thank you for stopping by. Please go down, hit the like button, subscribe, and look back here every week, Saturday 11, Wednesdays at 7. We are here for you guys. We are here to make your lives better and trucking great again. Bull of the Word says the worst statement is, that's trucking for you. No. Follow my other channel. That's trucking. Not for you. That's trucking. Just dropped the for you. But I appreciate you putting that in there. Let me see here. So I'm no trucker. I am a machinist, but have loaded a lot of flatbed trailers. Well, we thank you for your assistance. Would rather have it loaded well than fall all over the ground. It's obvious that when Gov chokes out oil, fuel, they're trying to wreck the economy. I shouldn't be talking about the government.
Oh yeah, he does.
Different show entirely. Some states require drivers to be paid while sitting in shippers and receivers at minimum wage. For example, Washington. You know what? The left coast has their own way of doing things, and even that is minimum wage. Do you want to work for minimum wage? Really? I avoid the left coast at all costs. I just totally do not. And yes, I call it the left coast because that's what Rush used to call it. And I agree with it. We call it loud. Oh yeah, solar's cool, but don't mandate it. Panels and batteries are toxic when they wear out. Yeah, again, different show, but I appreciate your thoughts. Different tragedy. Current methods do not work unless all truckers are involved. Thank you. That's the other part. When you get these protests and you only get, here's a funny one. I'm trying to remember the details. Last year, 2 years ago, about a video was on Mother Trucker about one fella that lived in Pennsylvania. He was sick and tired of the way truckers were treated, so he was planning a protest. Guess where he was going to go? He was going to go all the way to Washington. Guess how many truckers, even though he got public and went on the news, guess how many truckers showed up for the protest?
One.
Nobody.
I thought
No one had time. No
I
one
thought-
gave a crap.
I thought one showed up because it was his friend.
Well, maybe
I
it was
think
his
you're
friend,
right,
but as
Thumper.
far as-
I think you're right.
Yeah, as far as he was concerned, that was nobody. Because he was hoping on tens of thousands the way he was talking. I remember it. I laughed hysterically. I thought, now that talks about our industry. We can't even get one trucker to show up and talk about what's bad. And I thought that was just atrocious. I mean, I kind of agreed with what he was trying to do, but where's the unity? Where is the brotherhood? And that's hopefully one of the things I'd like to change. I'd like more people aware of what we go through. I mean, I'm not exactly going to stage a protest and go to Washington or New York City or whatever.
Well,
But my platform's here. Y'all are welcome to it. Everyone in the audience. Y'all have my email address, my studio line. I'm live for a minimum of an hour, twice a week. Come on my show. State your piece. Make it known. Do your part. Help the industry. That's how we get change done. That's how people become aware of things.
Boss man,
What's up? Go ahead, poet. Go ahead.
I have a question for Fate.
Sure.
Because I am trying to understand what he is feeling. And this is going back to the protest. So I do agree that a fragmented start equals a fragmented end. Okay? You said you have to be united. A couple of seconds later, you say you have to be in it for yourself, which is, to me, fragmented. Okay,
No,
so
that's not what I
explain. Go
said.
ahead.
No, that's not what he said.
Okay.
That's
You wanna
not
clear-
at all what I said.
Yeah. You want to clear that up, Pete?
What I said for like me is for me to be part of a protest, the protest needs to directly affect me.
Right.
I cannot think of anything. I mean, I'm sure I could if I had time. There's nothing that directly affects me that I would need to go out and protest for. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
Yes.
what I'm talking about the protest though, like if a bunch of people get together, there should be a commonality, there should be a common goal in what they're trying to achieve.
Yep.
Kind of like what happened up in Canada. I do believe that was a pretty common goal. I know another guy that's a YouTuber that was there and things like that. But in the big scheme of everything, I think that gets lost. And once again, it has to directly, for me to be part of something, it has to directly affect me. Hence why I'm not in the union anymore. There was things in the union that I really disagreed with, that my voice didn't matter because I had to just be a sheep and follow along with everybody else.
Right.
Otherwise, it was
Right.
not, it wasn't cohesive to what I needed.
Right. And I
So-
think there's a larger degree of people in I think there's a large degree of people in the industry that kind of feel the same. So it doesn't surprise me that this fella didn't get anybody, because apparently whatever message he was trying to send didn't resonate with people. So, some messages actually bounce. It's a lot like creating videos on YouTube. Sometimes I make videos and there's like a handful of people that see it. Other times I make them and it goes out to thousands, and thousands of people can relate. So, I mean, it's kind of hit and miss. But if you get the right message with the right velocity behind it, enough people will back you. I mean, it's just a matter of, figuring it out and doing it the right way. Personally, I don't think that going to New York City, blocking up gridlock cities is the way to do it. I don't think it's
that's going to get you towed away.
All that's going to get
Thanks
you is
for
what, Larry?
explaining, Fate.
All that's going to get you is towed away.
Yeah, I think in the end, the cost is bared heavier on the trucker in a case like that.
But not only
a
that,
big rig,
how,
a big weird wrecker is $500.
right? Well, they'll charge more if they know it's an event like that. Say again,
Yeah.
Thumper. Go ahead.
So now the real question is, they go do that, they block all this stuff up. How is that? How is the government gonna make some kind of law or regulation or something against the rest of us who aren't participated in that and want nothing to do with that? It doesn't affect just them; it affects everybody.
Don't forget, New York
That's
City
right.
Mayor Eric Adams is a Democrat.
Mhm.
He'll make
He'll
sure
figure a way.
truckers. He'll make sure the truckers don't repeat one event after another. Trust me. You don't remember Thumper, but maybe those in the audience do. It wasn't long ago. Eric Adams personally went around to certain neighborhoods and had trucks towed out of neighborhoods in the city, where prior to that they could park and stay overnight. He said no more. He cleaned out Long Island. Okay, that's how he feels about trucks. Now go to not Bronx. Go to Manhattan. Go down Fifth Avenue. Block up Wall Street. Watch what Mr. Adams does to your truck. Watch what he does to your movement. Watch what he does to your message. That man's going to step on you like a roach, and he's going to throw you out like yesterday's dinner.
Well,
So,
I get
will.
that, you know, he'll
Yeah.
be like that, but that, like, again, they're all the way over there in the East Coast. I'm here in the Midwest. You got people over in the West Coast. It's going to affect all of us because it's going to make us look bad.
indirectly. Yes, indirectly. Everyone in the industry looks bad when something goes wrong. And, unless you control it in a certain way, the media has a way of controlling everything. Really, they do.
I mean,
So-
the only protest / convoy I could think of that was kind of successful was that coast to coast one from California to DC a couple of years ago.
Not really.
Mhm.
It was effective at getting out the message, but what they were fighting for didn't change.
Well, that's
Their
the
messaging
thing.
was good. Yeah.
Hold on.
But-
That's the thing. I think Thumper's right there in the fact of if your message gets out,
Mhm.
that's how conversation and discussions start.
Mhm.
Laws aren't changed overnight. Regulations aren't made. I mean, we think they're made overnight because that's what the news tells us. That's what it gets blasted in our media inboxes and stuff like that.
Right.
But these things take time. So I
Yes.
think anytime your message can get across, but once again, the message can be like one or two things. It can't be 10 things. Otherwise, your message just gets distorted and lost. And that's the problem with trucking. We all are independent people. We all have individual thoughts on what could make our day to day better. What makes my day to day better might hurt Thumper. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
Well, you
Gonna
put
see-
10
I'm gonna-
truckers in. You put 10 truckers in a room, okay, and you ask them what the weather is like. You will get 30 different answers.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Well, it's
And
true. You can
And
laugh
it's
all
like
you
you
want.
said earlier,
It's
boss
true.
man.
What's that, Larry?
And it's like you said earlier. All four of them have a different opinion on why they're even doing the protest. So
Yep.
if they can agree on one thing, right there, it's going to fail.
Yep. I mean, just the point I was trying to make a minute ago. The media spins everything. I mean, look right here. The media will spin everything. You think your message is uniform. You think it's good, but then all of a sudden, what happens? Someone joins in and echoes something different. And other organizations then will hijack your cause and make it something it's not. Ergo, insurrection. Ergo, terrorists. Ergo, whatever else the media wants to spin, they'll turn it around and turn it into something.
As
it's
what I
not
said
legit.
earlier.
What's that?
Basically,
Grumpy?
they'll tear it apart and make it what they want out of it.
Yes. So I believe, and
And
this
then
is
a
just
week
my
later-
opinion.
Correct,
I believe-
Bossman Jr.
Yeah. I believe, and this is just my opinion, I believe a careful dissemination of whatever message you're trying to say is far more effective than any protest you could ever stage. TJ Bowl of the Woods, a statement about Washington for companies in Washington state that do business. It doesn't affect other companies. ICs from other states. Good to know. Thank you for clarifying that. Juju, new guys in the house. Already have traffic in Manhattan. How about going to block traffic on Staten Island? More sympathetic crowd over there. Well, you know what? I mean, thank you to Juju for making that point. Anywhere you go, whether it's Staten Island, the Bronx, the Queens, Westchester, Rochester, Syracuse, Joplin, Missouri, Sacramento, California. It don't matter where you're talking about. You're doing a protest and blocking access to anything will be hijacked by the media, by others that don't care about you, and will take over the cause. Turn it into something it's not. In the end, it will serve to negative your cause, hurt your cause, deepening your message, sounding off a bunch of alarms to a bunch of people it really would otherwise not need to get involved. If you want to get your message out, there is a far more effective way. I think this right here is a hell of a lot more effective. And I think it's a lot more because there are people here that want to hear what we have to say. Not a bunch of people that care less. When you block up city streets, when you block access to businesses, people don't want you. People don't care. They don't care if you live or die. You're in their way. Stanza Transport. We should allow the market to punish and reward businesses on their practice. If we find a business not paying the drivers or having shady practice, we should not work for them. Yes, sir. Amen. Thank you for your contribution to the show. I mean, really, everybody has the same access to the internet. The internet doesn't need a protest. The internet doesn't need police intervention. The internet doesn't need logistics and planning to timely get your message out. The internet is 24/7. YouTube is eternal. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these platforms, you can use them to your advantage if you know how to do it.
One good example of this is the factor, like I watched a video here a while back of somebody, showing a protest that was getting out of hand at one of these meat processing
KJ,
plants.
I agree with you, KJ. Thank you for that comment.
And
Go ahead.
I said, one good example is I was watching a video here a while back on these protests that were going on at meat processing plants. So the vegans that didn't like it and all that. Well, our good friend Fate there, he doesn't eat meat. And, I didn't see him out there and, being unpeaceful and stuff. He wouldn't join in on something like that because it would be blocking people from doing their job as well.
Really, Fate? That's nice to know, my friend. How'd you like it when Grumpy picks on you?
No, I think that was actually all of a sudden he's like, this protest at a meat plant and stuff. Yeah, like I would never be part of that. Why? Because it's my choice. I chose to eat the diet that I eat. I'm not doing it for environmental like I eat what I eat because it's what I want to eat and it tastes good. You know what I mean?
Precisely.
I don't expect anybody else to do the same thing.
Right. Guys, I'll tell you what. Choice is just that. Everybody out here has a choice to make. And you know what the choice I make is? I choose to be effective with my messaging. I choose to do it the right way. At the end of the day, the best way to get your message across is consistency. You have a way of doing that right here on this channel, but blocking the city streets, not going to work. And if you're out there and you're part of this outfit, I urge you, reach out to me. I'll have you on the show. I'd love to help solve these problems. There's a right way and a wrong way. Taking a bunch of trucks down into the city, blocking city streets, it's not going to work. I'm pushing for a positive in this industry because at the end of the day, it's trucks that make the deliveries. but it's you that make the difference. Make better choices. Help make trucking great again. Till next time, by all means, keep her rolling, folks.